capital market probe. Mr. Son Ogunleye joins us now. He's an asset management expert and former registrar and chief executive officer of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN. Thank you for coming on this morning.
You're welcome.
Well, we have heard a whole lot from that committee. That's the report we played previously. But, okay, I think we've got another perspective in terms of the report which was put together. We'll take a look at this one and we'll continue from there.
The request for payment.
It's the third day of what is expected to be a 2-week public hearing into factors that led to the financial crisis in the capital market. And the focus of the committee was the Security and Exchange Commission. The lawmakers took officials of the commission up on the process taken to purchase some vehicles.
You said a document that was passed around for people to sign without a formal meeting followed due process. Did I hear you right?
What I said was the whole process of purchasing of the vehicles followed due process.
I want you to confirm. The meeting of the tender board did not hold. You said yes. You passed a paper around for people to sign. The legal director said here that because the meeting did not hold, he did not sign. And you are telling me you followed due process as a member of the institute?
Let me make, a point. Meeting, there is virtual meeting and there is physical meeting. Physical meeting will not take place. The virtual meeting was, as I say, all the documents were sent around. All the documents, we made advertisements. We made the advertisements, quotations were obtained from the relevant vendors, and this one was processed by the Secretary Tenders Board, and it was passed around.
The committee was also interested in how management of the Exchange Commission arrived at a decision to provide accommodation for the Director General of the Commission, despite government's monetization policy.
Given the policy of monetization that we have very well described, can the Director General ask the Securities and Exchange Commission to pay rent for her?
My answer to that question, sir, will be that we had started implementing monetization, and all of us are paid monetized rent.
Okay.
To that extent, we stopped renting houses.
Thank you, Director Legal. Given your wealth of experience and your knowledge of the fact of the law, the monetization law, whoever advised you, who was the person who advised you, sir?
To advise who?
Who advised you that there was another law that allows the DG to have residence?
I said there was a staff manual, and there's a memo written by the director, head of admin, stating where he got the
power to allow that to happen.
To allow to happen.
Is this memo more than does this memo supersede the law, sir?
As a set of, not everything that we, even our salary and everything is not with the public service. So that's
no, sir.
Other officials were also asked to clarify these matters before the committee adjourned for the day. The public hearing is expected to continue on Tuesday. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, there you have it, Mr. Ogunleye. You've seen this matter. It just goes on. You know how this sector works because you are in it. What's your perspective of what's going on so far?
Well, personally, I'm still trying to figure out the whole essence of this discussion. The slides you've just shown me sounded very much like a management meeting of an organization. And I didn't expect that this is what I will be seeing in a public probe. Having said that, I had followed the petroleum industry probe. I've looked at the pension fraud probes, and my expectation for this one, if it happened at all, was that we are going to look at the parameters within which the market situation now will be improved upon, having been down close to 4 years now. But I have not seen yet any attempts at that from the 2 days we've had on this.
Well, but so far, there's some questions that have been raised on that floor that leaves some members of the public really wondering that, wait a minute, when are we going to get answers to some of this? I mean, first and foremost, the chair the chair was accused of course, it's all the headlines, some bribery allegations, and there are those who ask themselves if those previous probes have gone on in that manner, can they infer by reason of these allegations that perhaps could some of these have also happened previously in terms of the committees or so, as it were, demanding monies for probes to happen? Remember during Professor Grange's time, where the Senate Committee on Health was accused of almost the same kind of things, and now we have it popping up again. Do you think, from your perspective, the House of Reps should actually make a statement or something about what has been said?
Well, I mean, since this has come out as a byproduct of a drama that we've been seeing, any accusation of this magnitude must, of essence, be pursued to its logical end, so that to members of the public, it will not appear as if things are being swept under the carpet. But I try to relate that to the purpose of the probe, which I think is what the House of Rep set out to achieve by this probe at all. In other words, if there are accusations, whether it's a business or not, if it has appeared on the front of television to the public like this, let the appropriate authorities follow it through.
You seem to buy the idea that there should be a probe in the very first instance. You mentioned that, we should be looking at the markets, especially in the light of the fact that it's been down in the last 4 years.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Whether you call it a probe or any other name, perhaps it's time to, naturally you get concerned if any sector of the economy remains in the doldrums. And when you compare the situation with what happens in other climes, this is taking far too long. So I believe that the House of Reps or the Senate or whoever is rightly concerned that there has to be something that they want to know. Having said that, unless they have other things they know which we, the rest of us, don't know, it may not necessarily be answered by a probe. You may investigate reasons why certain things happened, but the choice of how you do it is very important. Otherwise, sometimes you want to cure a disease and you end up aggravating it, depending if whether you use a wrong drug or not. I'm saying this because this particular type of market, like the money market, like banking, like capital market, there are information sensitive indications that if you are not careful, the way you handle it, you may end up worse than you started out with.
If that's the case, why did we decide to make this a public hearing or a public probe?
That's what I'm saying. I still want to figure out the objective of taking this route. Some of the things I hear since the past few days are things I believe could have been said in a room to where the management of SEC or even the entire governing council of SEC would have been invited to say, this market has been down for close to 4 years. What are you doing to ensure it comes up? And I do not even see SEC being able to give us 100% answers to such questions.
Why?
Because capital market does not exist on its own. There are so many things that ought to be working in tandem together. You see, this kind of drama will continue anyway, because we always handpick a particular unit, segment, sector, and deal with it. Before it was petroleum. Yesterday it was pension. Tomorrow it will be post office. Some 2 years ago it was banking. And our attention is drawn to what is on the stage of play at any given point in time, until we sit down and say, how does this capital market, how is it affected by banking industry? How does the market, how will it grow if the banks are not lending to the real sector?
You know, you are in the industry. Sorry, just before we go to the newsroom, do you think that the capital market is sick?
Of course, every of our markets are sick. So that's what I'm saying. You don't isolate the capital market alone. It's like talking about monetary policy without looking at fiscal policy. We've made these noises all over again. Each time you isolate one and separate it from the other, it's not your result is not going to work out the way you intend it to be.
So it must be in connection with the
exactly.
And then the arteries.
The SEC DG mentioned something about coordinating committee of regulatory bodies involving central bank, insurances, stock exchange, SEC, NSE, a conglomeration of everybody. This is a common problem that has to do with the economy. So you do not isolate one and say, you are the problem, we want you to solve this problem. It's not going to work.
We've been told that transparency plays a key role in all of this. Would you say that the investing public has had enough information as to what exactly was going on in that particular sector?
Definitely not. A plethora of problems in this. One of the key issues is information. I'm not absorbing SEC. For instance, we need a lot of public education on capital markets. A lot of us go into that market without knowing what we're doing.
Who's supposed to do the education?
Well, I mean, by as a matter of assignment, SEC ought to be in the forefront. Then you have so many ladders of people who are active in that market. The stockbrokers, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Institute of Stockbrokers. You have all of them there with different responsibilities, but within the same marketplace.
Some matters, allegations also, that were put up against the Securities and Exchange Commission. One of such was this Access Bank matter, all of those, because, they had asked that, how come they had some members of staff of Access Bank who were on secondment or something to the Commission, and they're still being paid by Access Bank and they're doing the same job for second. They thought there was something wrong there, because if you're being paid by another bank, you owe allegiance to that bank, and then you're with the regulatory body who supposed to be regulating where they're coming from. And so some things don't seem to be tidy in that respect, but we didn't get full benefit or full value of response owing to a whole lot of issues. Shouldn't that have been addressed also?
Well, it's obvious that that accusation goes beyond the ordinary employment of a particular type of staff. But let me say that it's in theory, there's nothing wrong with people moving from one institution to the other on secondment. But the relationship between the two needed to be clearly understood. Depending on what reciprocal interest you have. But in this particular case, from the background of the question, it will appear that because Access Bank was in the chain of a merger to be approved by SEC, it will appear as if that was the purpose for which that staff was moved. And in my part of this country, they say that when they call you a thief, you don't play around with a goat. So it's not so much that whether you wanted to steal that goat or not, but because people always suspect you're a thief. Anytime you are moving near anybody else's thing, they say, oh, it's about to steal it. I think that's what is playing out here. I've seen, I know of cases where banks second their staff to some state governments to go and work there. Sometimes they become commissioner for finance.
Does the bank still pay the salaries?
Yes. They go there on secondment and they pay the salary of that staff for as long as they keep him there, with the opportunity that he can return to the bank.
So while the bank pays, the state also pays?
I don't know, but the salary, the salary of that staff.
Sorry, so in such a situation, what does the paymaster get in return?
They do that with their eyes wide open. If I work in a bank and I send my staff to a particular state, and it's a senior person there, I expect that I will have access to deposits from that government.
So there must be something
of course, you don't do that for
the primary office.
Yes, but from the justification that we had from the SEC DG, maybe she has a point, but the psychology makes it very difficult for the public to accept that it's a theoretical movement from access to SEC.
You know, you've pointed out that, you know, you don't quite agree with the method, you know, that we're using to, the fact that it's a public hearing, as it were, because our markets are information sensitive. I mean, this type of market is information sensitive. But considering the fact that you've also agreed that the investing public doesn't exactly have enough information out there, would you rather that it was made public? I mean, if at some point it decide to discontinue this probe in the public and continue behind closed doors, would you be in support of that?
No, this is not the way to educate the public. Instead, you are creating negative impression in the minds of the public, which will shoot the market in the leg. That's the point I'm making. Education, I mean, can come in different shapes and forms. For instance, buying stocks is not the same thing as buying other commodities that you see and buy. So you are buying, it's like a shot in the dark. So you need advice, you need education, you need knowledge about what you are trying to do. And you may not actually possess that know-how, but some people who are operating in that market should be able to educate you.
You seem to be limiting the information to just education. Do you think that other types of information should be available? For instance, the workings of SEC and what exactly it has been doing to get the market out of the doldrums in the last 4 years?
Well, education is a very wide spectrum. That's why you need to use this genetically. But it could come in so many. For instance, I had expected that direct questions would have been posted to SEC. Now that we are here for close to 4 years, what do you have in the works that would...
Those were your expectations,
yes,
and they weren't met, were they?
I haven't had such questions.
It's 2 weeks, so perhaps maybe they'll do some adjustments and expect those direct questions to be answered. But some other questions which popped up by way of allegation is accusations of, let's say, in 8 months, from January to August 2010, that the SEC paid 30 million plus on hotel accommodation related expenses for the DG alone. And of course, we also heard that given that monetization policy, that ought not to be. But again, it just hangs out there, no proper response from all of those. But with this one now, what do you think?
You see, those are critical issues, but they are small in relativity to what I thought is the objective of this probe. We are talking of a capital market that got depressed from 28 How much capital?
Trillion naira.
You know, trillions of naira, and it's now below 20. From what it crashed down for almost close to 80% in trillions of naira. Assuming that 800 million wasn't paid out, how does it resolve the problem of the market?
So in other words, you say there's been an improvement from the last time?
No. I'm talking about the relativity
yes.
of the
what we
issue
have
being
now
made out of allowance or rent or whatever. I'm not downplaying the criticality of processes or whether you go beyond your powers or whatever, or payment that you are not entitled to. I'm a stickler for discipline and things like that. But considering the size, the relativity of that to the stage of the probe we are, that is being watched by the whole world, what is the materiality?
Because what would some say that if they're trying to point out or lead to the fact that, well, if you can manage or stick to certain small provisions of requirements as regulatory body, perhaps upon those foundations some things might have gone wrong which we thought we were going to get right and we missed it. And do they have a point if at all they were to link it up with
that touches on the competency issue that was raised. Whether this is part of competence, I don't know. It's neither here nor there. But talking about competence, one needs to, because I understood one of the questions to mean that if SEC was up and doing, why was he not in a position to bail out or protect or guarantee the investment of investors, just like the central bank did? I thought that expectation was that we expected the SEC to behave like central bank.
Was it the wrong expectation?
I think it is wrong.
Well, what's the place of AMCON here in all of this?
AMCON has nothing to do with this directly, except that AMCON is buying debts from banks, and those debts could be part of funds used into the capital market. So indirectly, AMCON may have affected this capital market indirectly. But in terms of direct responsibility, the assignment of SEC is not exactly like that of central bank. Central bank statutorily is meant to protect the interest of depositors, which they do in conjunction with the establishment of NDIC as an insurance company. And that's why central bank is able to cover certain minimum amounts payable to depositors if a bank goes under, because central bank issued a license to organizations as a deposit taker. SEC do not grant you license as deposit taker, but it only guarantees that the market integrity will be maintained under the rules and regulations in the Act. So to that extent, the only similarity is the commonality of being a regulatory body.
Well, there's going to be a very long weekend till Tuesday before we get to sit and resume sitting. What would you like to see the panel bring before Nigerians?
Well, the outcome of a probe like this is one, maybe as a preamble to let us know that we had a problem, and this is the problem. We were here, now we are here. Some of the issues is what led to this, and that can be extrapolated to what happened outside the country, and you situate it in your. Having said that, we have stories about that for too long. After that build-up, we now say, where do we go from here? I think that's the most important thing now. And I expect SEC to bring up issues which they have on the table for healing the illnesses in the marketplace. But also, we don't expect that they will be magicians anyway. They should be able to highlight that, provided other sectors of the economy play its own role. It's only then that this market will begin to lift. On the part of SEC, for example, they could throw in a lot of incentives to make people want to return and build confidence in the capital market.
Crucial.
Yeah, those are the issues I expect
to be raised. And those issues haven't been raised. You've already given what you expect will come out at the end of it. Considering where we are now in this particular probe, do you think that this particular spilt milk can be salvaged?
Well, I think in the first instance, if the intention was to raise this type of questions and we get these answers, then we didn't need a public outing like this. We should have saved ourselves the embarrassment of all of this. But the damage had already been done, quite frankly.
And it looks like it from all parties.
Yes, it's now mudslinging and whatever. But as it is, I believe we can now resort to damage repairs and management.
How do we do that? Because I mean, look at those who are already asking. So if we have to ask for monies to embark on certain trips, you're talking about public funds, public institutions, and so many things come to question.
Well, if we don't manage this, in the coming days, we will be distracted away from the primary objective of having this probe. We will now be looking at issues that are extraneous to the original.
Yeah, but in the short term, how can that happen? Because some of these issues which you talked about, expectations, they have to be addressed if they'll stick with the 2-week timeline that they've got. But how would this comes in the way of all of those? How would you suggest they handle it, for instance, to get away from that distraction and focus on the main things?
I think they should have a recess and go and talk to themselves from the glare of television.
Do you think the chairman should be changed?
I don't know. I don't know how they're set up. So,
but in terms of investors' confidence and funds issues concerning all of those, will they be assuaged if the House of Reps don't make a statement saying, well, actually, this is a one-off. This is not the procedure or requirement for the House and all of those. Will it make any meaning? Does it matter whether they make a statement or not?
Well, it's difficult to assess because I already listened to the altercations and all of this. So it's my judgment now, not whatever any party says. I will just listen and say, I've heard you.
And you make up your mind?
I make up my mind. And it's about going back to the market to invest.
Okay, no, well, I mean, it's very important because considering what we've seen with other probes, you know, doesn't this stand out a little bit off?
This is very different. Very different because you're I don't know what percentage of headcount of Nigerians that are involved in this. Almost like when we're talking about fuel subsidy, it touches every home, every person, every family. This one also. A lot of people have been injured because of the losses they sustained in the market, and they were looking up to some magic to happen when the thing will come back. But if this is what we are getting, then your guess is as good as mine.